Good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to the Wacky World Lounge. I'm your host, Mr. R. Sterling, and tonight we'll be discussing my favorite giant creatures from the 1950s. And number 5 on the list, the monster bird from The Giant Claw from one of the finest years in cinema history, 1957. And The Giant Claw tells the story of a giant monster bird that shows up from out of the blue from the antimatter galaxy and starts wreaking havoc, including an attack on the Empire State Building. And that's all you really need to know. The design of the creature is a lot of fun. Kind of a giant, grumpy looking vulture, and clearly the inspiration for the Skeksis from The Dark Crystal. The film star Jeff Morrow said that no one in the cast knew what the monster bird looked like until the actual premiere of the film, and reportedly he snuck out of the movie early out of embarrassment. And sure, the bird isn't the most fearsome of beasts, but he's just so charming looking, like you just want to hang out with that guy, maybe watch a Sinbad movie together. And speaking of, segue, originally producers planned to use a stop-motion creature created by Ray Harryhausen himself, but the budget wouldn't allow for such extravagance, and they ended up paying a model maker in Mexico $50 for the marionette. And number 4 on the list, the mantis from The Deadly Mantis from, I kid you not, 1957. And The Deadly Mantis tells the story of a volcanic explosion in the South Seas that causes an iceberg in the North Pole to split, freeing a giant prehistoric praying mantis. Surprise, surprise, it goes on to do a whole bunch of giant insect-type stuff. I have always thought that mantises were really unusual and groovy looking. Even small, they have an almost alien look to their appearance, like something straight out of sci-fi. So it was really a great choice for a creature feature, and the effects here are fantastic. There were 3 models of the mantis. The largest, which was made from paper mache, was reportedly around 200 feet long with a hydraulic system within for movement. Then there was a 6-foot version and a 1-foot version used for walking and flying shots. And finally, footage of a real mantis was used for the scene where it climbs the Washington Monument. And these effects came courtesy of Cleo Baker, who also did effects for The Incredible Shrinking Man and This Island Earth, and Fred Knopf, who worked on Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And number 3 on the list is the Rhedosaurus from The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms from 1953. And The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms tells the story of a giant prehistoric reptile who is unleashed from the Arctic Circle courtesy of some atomic testing. He then makes a beeline to New York to take in the sights, and of course, buzzkill humans want to raid on his dinosaur parade. The Rhedosaurus is a marvel of stop motion, one of the finest examples of the art form, and was, of course, by the great Ray Harryhausen. And it actually took him multiple tries before he was satisfied with the creature's design. It just wasn't terrifying enough for him at first, though I personally think all of the models looked great, especially that first try. Now, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms was based on a short story by Ray Bradbury called The Foghorn, but in the story, the beast was not called the Rhedosaurus. The term came from either the producer of the film or one of the film's writers. Supposedly, the RH in Rhedosaurus was short for Ray Harryhausen, and our scaly hero would live on past the film in a sense. Parts of the beast would be repurposed for the dragon from the 7th voyage of Sinbad. Not only that, but the Rhedosaurus was also a major influence on Godzilla the very next year. And on that, we should take a break of some kind.
3, 2, 1, blast off! She's up! Come in ideal countdown control. Ready for second launching.
Atlas moving into position.
Fuel her up.
All set.
Countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! There she goes!
Yes, you can be in command of your own ideal countdown. It's a real electronic missile base. You sit at the controls and move missiles into place. You count down. You blast off. You track the flight. The ideal countdown comes complete with moon missile and lunar probe, as well as a giant atlas. Get your electronic ideal countdown now, wherever good toys are sold.
It's a wonderful toy. It's ideal.
And we're back with number 2 on the list, and that's the giant mollusk from the monster that challenged the world from, you guessed it, 1957. And the monster that challenged the world tells the story of an undersea earthquake that, you guessed it again, releases a bunch of giant prehistoric mollusks. And this is absolutely one of the coolest and most unique creatures to ever grace the silver screen. There was this misconception or stereotype that 50s movie monsters are all just campy or silly. And whenever I hear that, I just point them to the monster that challenged the world. Amazing effects and just downright creepy design on the creatures. Now, trivia and background on this one was quite tough to come by, but the effects were done by Ted Howarth and Augie Lohman. Howarth was mostly a production designer, having worked on the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and Lohman, who had an especially impressive resume, was the special effects supervisor on Barbarella, a channel favorite. And number 1 on the list, the Cyclops from the 7th Voyage of Sinbad from 1958. And the 7th Voyage of Sinbad tells the tale of Sinbad's 3rd and 5th voyages, oddly, not his 7th. And within this voyage, Sinbad and crew arrive at an island where they find the Cyclops, or Cyclopses. Cyclops Eye? Either way, they find one of the coolest movie monsters of all time. As a lad, this was one of my absolute favorites. And how could he not be? Once more, we have the incredible work of Ray Harryhausen, of which took 11 months in total, but that includes all the stop motion in the film, not just the Cyclops. And the Cyclops design was essentially the Ymir from 20 Million Miles to Earth mixed with the Greek god Pan. Both the Cyclops and the Ymir use the same armature even. In the original script, the climax of the film featured a battle between 2 Cyclops, rather than a Cyclops fighting a dragon. And jumping back to my youth for a second, the very first piece of sci-fi memorabilia I ever bought at a con was a pewter figurine of the Cyclops, and to this day, it's still one of my favorite pieces of one of my favorite creatures. And that's all the time we have this week. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know some of your favorite 1950s sci-fi creatures. And keep it wacky.
In the 7th Voyage of Sinbad, you will see the 2-headed roc of the Arabian Nights' tales, a bird with the wingspread of a jet airliner. You will see it attack a shipload of sailors and carry Sinbad away in its talons. You will see a fight to a finish between a 50-foot Cyclops and a 100-foot dragon. You will see an astonishing sword fight between Sinbad and a skeleton which comes to life at the magician's bidding. Every movement in this sequence was carefully plotted in advance, with precise markings for Sinbad and for insertion of the skeleton. Matthews, playing Sinbad, was coached by Italian Olympic fencing coach Enzo Greco in endless rehearsals, during which the fencing master stood in for the skeleton. Later, the actor had to pantomime his every move without his opponent. Then the skeleton was inserted via dynamation to match the movements of the fencing instructor.